and welcome back to the Right Brain Podcast. We have my amazing friend Roman Alexander on here.
It's been a minute.
I haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah.
He just had a song come out called Pour You a Drink, and his EP called Midwest Calling is coming out on August 22nd.
Yep.
So you guys have to check that out. I was trying to think about when you and I met, and you were just mentioned Key West, but I don't know if we met in Key West or we met on like that boat day.
I met you in Key West, but we met on Percy Priest Lake.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's when we really
hung out. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. With Ashley and Gable and Jen and all them. So
Yes.
we all went out on the boat that day. That was a good time.
That was really fun. Yeah.
Yeah, and I had to give you a ride home because you didn't have a car that day. I don't think you didn't have your car.
I still don't have a car.
That's all right.
We were just talking about that on the last episode, that everyone thinks that I don't know how to drive, but because I lived in Manhattan before I moved here, I haven't had a car in years. So
that's what friends are for. You don't need a car.
I just have people drive me places.
Well, some of her friends, when they're driving her, they also almost get arrested. So like we went to this story, another one where her friend didn't, she got pulled over by a cop and she hadn't changed her plates in 2 years. She had no insurance. She had no license.
No way.
I told him that story. He was like, "Stop hanging out with only right brain people. You need people to balance."
You gotta have a little left brain in there once in a great while.
He's like, "How about someone?"
Only drive with left brain people.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, I don't know about that. Okay, so we were telling you, like, normally we start this out by kind of asking you about your childhood and what that was like, and obviously I think you're super talented, so
well, thanks.
Whenever you kind of started getting into music and stuff, but yeah, like what were you like as a kid?
I mean, if we're going to, I caused trouble a lot. I mean, I think there's a little bit of all artists being a little bit of hellraisers to a degree, but I was really bad at school.
Bad when you're saying bad, like you struggle with basic reading or math?
So you
dyslexic.
I have very bad dyslexia. So everything it didn't really set in until I'd been watching stuff about it and really understanding. And then I was around people who never understood it. A lot of it came out when I moved to Nashville. I didn't realize how bad it was. I could never read out loud. So I could read, but it would have to be never out loud, because all the words would get bunched up and jumbled, which then created this anxiety where I couldn't talk out loud. I was afraid to speak because everything I said, then I'd pay attention and my tongue's getting caught on my teeth when I talk. This is really weird, and I'm stuttering, and then I start talking about stuff that just doesn't matter, and it's just these nervous tics, and it I had an IEP, so I had a disability, so I had to be separated in a different class. I couldn't. Right. So then that kind of created this anxiety of am I I don't know, am I special needs to a degree,
right.
And because on the paperwork it said that,
right.
And as far as I knew, I could hold a normal conversation, and I'm a big history buff. I could talk about things I'm really passionate about. I'm a big race car fan. I love racing. So, and it came to things I'm interested in. I was really good at talking about that. But when it came to school, I couldn't figure out math. I just didn't know basic multiplication.
Yeah.
Still don't. It's the things that if I don't have a calculator in front of me, I'm kind of screwed. But I think that's a lot of people these days. But it really came out when I moved to Nashville, because this year is 10 years in Nashville for me.
Oh wow.
10-year town.
10-year town. So maybe we'll be 12 years in on a 10-year town. Maybe, I don't know. But I'm taking the scenic route, is what I say.
I think you're doing pretty damn well. So
you do demo sessions. When you write a song, you have to sing the demo, and you know how that goes. It's and I was frustrating the track guys though, because they'd be like, "You can't how are you not getting this line down?" I'm like, I can't read it. It's just not working for me. I need to listen first. So I'd have to go take the song home and listen to it and listen to the work tape, and then go back and sing the demo, which then slows down the process. And I think I was frustrating people to a degree. And so that's where I was like, oh wait, I really have bad dyslexia. But my dad has bad dyslexia. My mom does, I think. I think it kind of runs in the family.
Are they also musical?
No. I mean, they like music. I always grew up in a music household, so there was always music around. I mean, Dad was always playing, whether it was The Clash. He liked 70s punk rock, so it was The Clash, Sex Pistols, the Depeche Mode. I mean, all the 80s and 70s groups, and then the Cult. And then my mom was more 80s rock, Def Leppard and hair metal and all that stuff. So
were either one of them creative in other ways?
Yeah, I think so.
Or athletic?
I don't think so much on the athletic side. My dad liked racing, so that's
Okay.
anything that has to do with a car. You know,
Yeah.
and to me, I think that's very athletic.
Was he somebody that could fix anything like that?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Car related. He knew all about it. Same with my mom. My mom's very much like that. But my parents are really big about like dreaming. I think that's kind of odd to say, but like, I think dreaming is just as important as like chasing, like doing the job itself. And so I was always a daydreamer. I would always get stuck like daydreaming and just like, you know, you could ask me like, hey Roman, what are we learning right now? But I have no idea. But I was just daydreaming about, I'm gonna have a tour bus and then I'm gonna have a band and a staff. And
so
I was like,
when did that start? Meaning like for you to have those dreams, and imagination is a very right brain thing, especially exactly what you're talking about. And everything you're describing there obviously fits like textbook.
Yeah.
Dyslexia, dyscalculia, that's a left brain deficit.
Yeah. I have both of those things.
You know, but being able to write music or sing music, but you also talk about an auditory processing, or actually you had a reading problem, but you compensated auditorily by hearing it and then memorizing it that way, which means that it really was a reading problem, not as much a learning problem.
Yeah.
But then you get learning disabled and then you get labeled and now you're hyper social aware. And as a kid, especially, but if a right brain dominant person, you know, the biggest fear is that you're going to be embarrassed in front of other kids or that you're going to feel shame or that you're going to be rejected.
Yeah.
And now reading out loud is horribly painful because you know you can't do it. And like you said, and then the anxiety builds up. And then stuttering is also a left brain deficit. And then that makes you feel even more embarrassed, which makes it even worse. And then you have to be taken out of class and put into special classes because you have an IEP. And then you start thinking, well, am I, I'm special ed, so there's something wrong with me. And now you start feeling like everybody thinks I'm dumb and you start to feel like you're dumb and all of those things. And none of that is actually true. The right brain is actually the more intelligent brain and all of that. So, but then for you to be a dreamer is also, you know, in the midst of all of that, for you to be able to have these dreams that I'm going to do something great just shows how big your right brain was, you know? When did you start thinking of that? Like, were you already playing music? Did you already,
I was 6.
Wow.
So I started doing like open mics. My uncle has a country band called Outlaw Jim and the Whiskey Benders. Like they're like known all over Kansas City because that's where I'm from, is KC. And they bounce around and they play all these like honky tonks and stuff. So my mom would take me. I would be like, can you please take me? I want to play Johnny Cash's.
So were you singing like from very beginning, like as a little kid, you started singing?
Yeah, because I wanted to be Johnny Cash. I even wore like the black suit and like the black shirt. Like I wore the sunglasses. I just tried to be. I wanted to be what I saw on TV, which Walk the Line had just came out,
right.
You know, and Joaquin Phoenix was Johnny Cash. And then I grew up like, I'm a big, huge Elvis fan. Like anything with Elvis, I love. My mom's name's Lisa Marie. So it kind of runs in the family there. And so I always wanted to be these superstars that like were bigger than themselves. Like they were almost superheroes to me. They weren't just artists or musicians. They were superheroes. They were supernatural. The way they commanded a room, the way they were able to tell a story, even the way they spoke or just moved, which grew this fascination with like James Dean and like these older classic
you have
things.
That like vibe about you. I think it's so cool.
And I think it comes out later on because you're like, those are things I'm inspired by.
I was trying to like describe you to my dad, and I was saying, he's got this kind of old school vibe. That
Well, thanks.
Yeah.
I take pride in it, you know, because it's something that it shows. It's a reflection of who I grew up listening to.
Yeah.
And then,
but it's just amazing even as a small child that just to show you how innate and inherent it was in you. That there was this, like that you could have been drawn to sports people, you could have been drawn to scientists, you could have been drawn to a lot of different people. Yeah. But you were drawn to these musicians.
Or actors, Paul Newman. I mean, like all these classics, you know.
Yeah.
Marlon Brando. I mean, the fact I even like loved black and white things. It's kind of like, you know, they talk about like a past life. I don't know if any of that stuff's true or not, but I did feel a very strong connection to that. But I think a lot of it also comes from I had to grow up really fast.
Why?
My parents got divorced when I was 7, 8. I think I was 8. My mom moved to Texas. You know, she had met a guy and they moved to Texas and then my dad, you know, was in Kansas City, but he worked a lot. So I lived with my grandparents. My grandparents I'm Mexican American, so they lived in like the very Hispanic part of Kansas City on the west side, very kind of inner city a little bit. Great community, great people. Primarily like Spanish speaking. I don't speak Spanish at all. I failed Spanish 1 actually. But I take a lot of pride in being Hispanic. Like I do, because of my grandfather and my grandparents in general. I lived with them for a bit, and I dealt with a lot of bullying and that I didn't look like the kids because they're I went to an all Catholic school for a bit, so it was a primarily high income school. Right. I was not that. Mm-hmm. And I think that I had to grow up and just mature. And I think my imagination was a way to escape any trauma or anything going on. I heard my parents arguing a lot when they were going through a divorce. They know that, they were in their 30s. So they were still young and trying to figure out life. So I have a lot of mercy on them because I'm almost, I'm 29 this coming week. Like I'm starting to realize I'm still growing and still mature. And like my parents had my sister, who was only 5 years older than me, when they were 20 years old. Right. So I have to take it easy on them. They're kids. Sure. They were kids, and they were even kids in their 30s, in my opinion. Yeah. Just trying to figure out life and make ends meet. So I think I got caught up in the arguing, like, well, you tell your dad I said this. Well, you tell your mom I said this. And it just kind of drew this, I had to be a mediator and be an adult. Yeah, it just.
So you had to be the parent a lot of the time.
Yeah, and I never wanted to tell them that, but as I got older, I was like, man, I had to be 20 years older than I actually was, and I had to be my own biggest advocate at times, especially like living in, with my grandparents for a bit. I loved them. My grandpa was the greatest man I've ever met in my entire life, but
that's amazing.
He was a big part of.
And did they have a good relationship?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And my mom and I are best friends. My dad and I are best friends. I talk to both of them multiple times on the phone every single day. Because there'll be a day where I can't do that. So every day I make an opportunity for that. But yeah, I mean, I can go into it as deep as you want. I mean, it was.
You feel like both of your parents were really very emotional? Because we had a show on attachment styles also, and a right brain, left brain attachment style. And one of the attachment styles that is big right brain is this anxious attachment, where like this a lot of emotional drama, and the parents love you to death, but they can't deal with their own trauma and their own emotions, and it floods out, and the child ends up acting as the parent.
Yes.
And was that in both your parents?
I think so.
Yeah.
And I think they would tell you that today. Yeah. I think that was a little bit of both.
And that's a lot. It's a lot for you, but you also had your grandparents as a relationship because obviously it could affect your attachment style, like how your relationships are with men and women.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, and then I moved to Nashville after high school. High school was normal for me. Like, I played sports, but one thing I kind of caught on to that sticks out as I get older is I played a lot of sports. Played rugby, still do. Wrestled.
Yeah, you look like an athlete. That's for
sure.
I
hope so. I mean, I didn't eat like one last night. I was eating pizza last night. And then I, played football, raced karts. Yeah, I took a lot of brain trauma. I mean, I really did.
Head injury, in rugby especially.
I've had 13 major concussions that I can count, like major ones that either I was out for weeks or went to the hospital, or and I think. Part of that's also affected my behavior slightly. I think I've developed kind of like anger a little bit, like anxious and anger, stuff I've never had before. And it's like little things will just set me off. I don't say it out loud, but it's just in my head. I get angry. I don't know why. But I always kind of I'm like, I don't know what it's from. It just happened one day. I remember I got in a car wreck in 2020, and it just one day it just kind of just sent me where I was just like, I'm angry and I don't know why. And it was a concussion. But then I just recovering from that. It just slowly took a while to kind of get over that.
Did you find any other changes, like, changes in your memory or changes in your musical ability one way or the other, or?
I got addicted. Like, I had an addictive personality, I noticed. Addiction
to medication?
Yeah.
So like pain medication?
Adderall.
Adderall.
I got hooked on cocaine for a little bit, like.
And what did you find that those things gave you?
Too. Did you? Mm-hmm. It's not.
And what did so the one thing that the one type of attention that the left brain doesn't have, or that the left brain has, but if you have a left brain deficit, is really hyper focused attention.
Yeah.
And Adderall, that's what it does.
Yeah. Or modafinil.
It helps give you that hyper focused attention.
Yeah.
Which is really more of a left brain deficit.
Really?
Yeah, but what it also can do is, obviously it activates your adrenaline system and can really activate, make you feel more anxious, more nervous at times.
It would make me crazy angry, actually, which is
especially
weird.
the come down too.
Anger,
the come down, I would be
anger
so
is a left
mad,
brain emotion as well.
uncontrollably angry.
It was so terrible, but so great too. Like, if anybody asked me, like, I'm like, it was awesome. I loved Adderall, and I still think about it all the time. That's how I knew I was addicted. It was causing, it's hard to say because 2019. I signed my publishing deal in 2019. 2020, I released my music, and then 21 I had a big year. I had a song that was blowing up. I was on the road all the time. I was touring all the time. But 2020 was that as well. And so,
when did the head injury happen? When did the
2020?
2020.
Yeah.
So before all of that.
Mm-hmm. So it happened. The EP came out in November of 2020. The wreck did happen in December of 2020, but there's a lag period when an EP comes out because we're going into like the winter time. So the EP didn't really gain steam until the fall or until the spring, and that's when everything kind of took off. But yeah, during that, 2019, I was starting to take Adderall occasionally and kind of dabble a little bit and take it recreationally. Same with drugs in general. And then 2020, it just like sent where I was just, I don't know, I got hooked on it, and it just I needed it to function. I needed it to get through my day. I was like, well, I wrote a really good song on it, so clearly that's the key, and it kind of was. And it just became just unhealthy. So it was causing anxiety attacks. And then they found an aortic aneurysm, in my heart, because I don't know if it was from a bunch of blood pumping or what, but I had a panic attack and I thought I was having a heart attack. And so I went to the hospital and they did a CAT scan.
You are so lucky they found an aortic aneurysm.
Yeah.
How did they find that? I mean, like, what was it after the accident? They did some imaging?
No, it was actually before the accident. So I did Adderall one day. It was like a Tuesday. And I remember I had to go to the studio later that day. So I was working with my producer at the time. And so I took an Adderall that morning. It was kind of like a 20 milligram Adderall, just normal. And it wasn't the time release. I think it was like the instant ones, like the little pink pills, And I took one of those and I felt great. My brain was on fire. I was listening to Kings of Leon. I remember I was like on my way to the studio. I got to the studio and I remember I was sitting there and I was like, oh, that's weird. Like, why am I trying to get a breath? And then I was like, wait a second, my vision started to tunnel in, and I was like feeling my heart rate. I looked at my Apple Watch, and it was at like 160.
Wow.
And I was like, well, I'm just tachycardic. It's all good. We're just going to chill for a minute. And I come from a big medical family. Like my grandpa was a nephrologist, and my mom was in nursing. My grandparents, my sister's a paramedic, and so I kind of like know to like, you'll know when you're having a heart attack. You'll know when you're having a problem. Well, I didn't know because my face started going numb and my left arm started going numb. I was like, oh, I think I'm having a heart attack right now. Yeah. So I just went to my producer. I was like, hey, I'm going to go to the hospital. I think I'm having a heart attack. So super calm. I got in my Subaru Baja and I drove myself halfway to Vanderbilt, and I called 911 and I was like, I think I'm having a heart attack. And so the first thing they asked me, they're like, you done any drugs or anything we need to know about, what's causing, you have an anxiety attack? I was like, no, this isn't just an anxiety attack. Turns out it was an anxiety attack brought on by Adderall.
Yeah, the numbness gave that the key. Yeah,
and I had never experienced, and my hair was falling out. I had never experienced like touching my head and like hair. It was super odd.
Oh my gosh.
And then I went to the hospital and they did a CT scan, and they found that there was a a CAT scan, whatever it was. Yeah. They found that there was a 2 millimeter, or 1 millimeter aortic upper thoracic aortic aneurysm. Wow. So. Still hasn't stretched, far as I know.
So they didn't do any repairs or anything.
No, they didn't need to.
That's a tough one. But so the thing about Adderall is that most people don't know is that several years ago in Canada, it was actually pulled from the shelf, and it had what was called a black box warning, because there was a 500% increased risk of heart attack in children who were taking Adderall. You know, like if you had ADHD and they gave it to you.
Yeah.
And so it literally was, you know, not 100% pulled, but it was with this warning, like there's this dramatic increase. And so therefore what's supposed to happen before anybody gives you a prescription is they're supposed to do a complete cardiac workup. And even on children, even in kids, if they're getting, you know, methylphenidate or, because all of those drugs, basically, they're the opposite of beta blockers. We were talking about previously about beta blockers and what they do. They block the effects of adrenaline, where essentially, you know, Adderall, methylphenidate, they actually increase your production of adrenaline.
Yeah.
And so that increases your heart rate, increases your blood pressure, and use of that could even lead to an aneurysm if they're like, that's how Bruce Lee died, by the way. Bruce Lee died not from Adderall drugs, but because when he trained at such a high level that he would increase his blood pressure so much as he was training that he literally created an aneurysm. And then one day it burst.
Yeah, that's like, they call it the Widowmaker, I guess is what they call that, I assume. Yeah. I'm very paranoid about my heart. I go to the cardiologist. I'm only supposed to go once a year for a check.
I was like, telling that story might have just unlocked a new fear for him. Yeah. But
no, I go twice a year, and I just go and I do the treadmill test, the stress test, and and my awesome doctor, he's like, you don't need to come twice a year. I'm like, I'm just super paranoid because one of those times out of the year I have to pay out of pocket for it. I don't care. That's my heart is the one thing in my brain. Well, actually, the two things that you can't really do much replacing to. I mean, you could do a heart transplant. I really would like to stay away from that. Yeah. But you can't really do a brain transplant as far as I know. So, you know, it's like, I you know, and I started trying out like a Provigil, like the modafinils and stuff like that to, you know, stay awake and to keep alert and to do whatever, get through the rites, go on tour. And then I tried beta blockers. And I didn't like that because I started crashing my adrenaline before I went on stage. Oh. So I didn't really have much energy on stage. I was just kind of just cruising. Right. You know, because I guess public speakers take those. So
yeah, that's why I was asking about it. Yeah. But do you have like have like OCD at all? Because you're saying that you just like think about your heart a lot. Because I don't know. I'm someone that can be a hypochondriac. Not that, I mean, you have actual reason to obviously worry about your heart, but like whenever I think maybe there's something wrong about me, that's something like I think about all the time and I want to go get it checked out.
I think I worry more about, I mean, I'm not afraid to admit it. I worry what other people think about me, you know, like, that's where my OCD comes in. I'm always worried if like somebody's mad at me. Like I can't like, even being late, I'm like, oh my God, they're going to think I'm so not on time and I'm not punctual, which I'm very punctual. I'm usually always 30 minutes early, like to a detriment sometimes. You know, I'm always kind of like worried if people are mad at me or angry with me, especially in this industry, which it doesn't get spoken about enough. And if you complain about it or you talk about it, they look at you like you can't handle this. Then you're not meant for this.
Especially you're a big, strong guy. You look like a very, you know, classic example of male strength.
Well, thank you.
And then to be able to talk about vulnerability and to talk about, you know, that and you know, the fact is that some of the greatest athletes, some of the greatest artists all struggle with this, but especially with males, they don't feel like the ability to talk about it.
I'm over it. I'm over the feeling like I can't speak about it. You know, so I have a lot. I'm able to open up a little bit more just because I come from a huge military family. So my sister, you know, grandfather was a Marine, fought in Vietnam. Uncles were all, you know, global war on terror, like 2001 to 2007. And then my sister went into the Marine Corps in 2010 and was the first female in the Marine Special Operations Command. Wow. For at least for her pipeline. So she was with MARSOC and did that whole thing and deployed multiple times. And, you know, and I think she'll even admit, I think like, she goes from that caliber of job to being a paramedic. There's really no buffer time. You're going straight from trauma to trauma to trauma to trauma.
Sure.
And it doesn't get spoken about enough. And I remember talking to her about it. She's like, nobody talks about it. It's not really spoken about. Mental health is one thing I think people are scared to talk about. And if you do talk about it, you're seen as weak.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, especially as a male, and you know,
especially if you're a soldier, and then you throw on top of a brain injury.
Yeah.
Right, which almost anybody
those micro traumas that they experience.
Yeah,
too.
just from the explosions themselves. You know, if they blow open a door or something, I mean, that's that concussive force.
Yeah, you're shooting a gun. I mean, just the gas blowback from a rifle.
Exactly.
Know?
And so all that together, and then again, you're not really. And that's why I worked with a lot of soldiers who have not only PTSD, but brain injury, but also are big right brain dominant people. And all of that comes together. You know, that's why Navy SEALs, a lot of them, they can't come and they can't shut it down. They can't have a normal relationship, you know?
Yeah. And I don't even want to try to compare being an artist to that, but to a degree where it does become relatable is we're always running at like 110 miles an hour. You know how it goes. It's just every day you wake up and it's just, you can't shut your brain down. It's like, you have to be on, you got to have a viral song. You got to have a viral video. Why didn't you know what you do? It's like you'll do something good enough you think is good enough, and you know, whether it's comments on Instagram or TikTok or just people in general, it's like, well, you should have said this, you should have done this, I wish you did this, you should be better at this, dress more like this, talk more like this, act more like this, and you start having an identity crisis where you try to figure out, who am I, what am I doing here, why am I doing this? For the first time in my life this past year, I started asking myself, is this something I even want to do anymore?
Right.
You know, I've got to meet everybody I want to meet. I've got the tour, got to do the coolest things. Is this even anything I want to do anymore? Because it's becoming not fun to me.
Yeah.
It's becoming, I'm angry, I'm bitter. I don't know how to shut it down. You know, I take it out on people I love and care about, to where I'm just stressed and angry. And it's not their fault. It is my fault that I'm the one who chose this career path at the end of the day. I know it comes with the territory, but at the end of the day, it's like, I'm still a human. You know? I still have human emotions, and but I've come out of that a little bit. You know, it's just, I deal with stress and anxiety, and I can't help it. And I think a lot of it's brought because of this industry.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because Roman is so amazing with everything that he posts. I think it, your whole look and your music and everything is very, very consistent, and I actually really admire you for that. I truly mean that. And he posts every day. He has a new post and he's promoting music, and it's amazing because you do really well with that. But I was wondering that because originally, before you came in here, I was going to ask you how you manage putting yourself out there that much, because I really struggle with that. But it's funny that you're saying that you have kind of all of the same inner thoughts that I have, but you're just, So I would assume, because when I post something and I need to get over it, obviously, but it's like, oh, I'll post something about my music, or I'll post whatever. And then for the next couple hours, I'm freaking the fuck out. And oh my God, what if everyone's mad at me, or they think I'm an idiot for what I posted or whatever. And I need to get over that. And sometimes I do, but I don't know how on with how much you do post, if you also deal with that, or you just let it go.
Yeah, pardon my French, I just say fuck them. Seriously.
Really?
Yeah, I don't care. I just stopped caring. This past year, I think I've just stopped caring. I don't care. It's just.
So you don't even think, you post it and you don't think about it.
Yeah. If you know what, I've had it to where the goal was to deliver numbers. We went viral. I give viral. And if that's still not good enough, that is a you problem, not a me problem. I did my job, and I've continued to push and build a brand on top of that. That's nobody's problem but your problem.
When you say you're talking about your record label, or
just fans, or whatever it might be. If it is the industry people, because everybody's got their own opinions.
Yeah.
You know, and I do value opinions, especially in this industry. It's a collaborative effort. You have to value and take into consideration people, because at the end of the day, you're a business. You know, you are an LLC, you're a corporation. You have to, you're your own boss, you know? Mm-hmm. So I do take everybody's opinion in consideration, but sometimes you start to lose. If you follow everybody else's narrative, you're going to lose who you are. And I was like, I don't want to lose that. That's all I have is myself, you know? And I've been doing this for so many years and been here, I've come this far. I'm not going to let anybody else derail if I know in my gut and my heart that this is what I really want to do and this is how I want to execute it. So
that's kind of nature of art, you know. It's subjective, and music and songs, and so that's the thing. Do you guys, it's almost like it would be great if you could have a filter where you're able to target people that get it for you. You know what I mean? Not in art. Everybody's going to be like great. It's going to be no matter what, even the greatest song in the world. Some people are going to say, I hate that song. Yeah. So you're always going to get the haters, but you're also going to get the people that love you. And really that's who you're playing for. They really get you and do that. And I guess that's what you have to do is target those people in some way, or at least in your mind.
Yeah.
That's the
I guess
people.
the people that end up following you are the ones that,
They buy a ticket.
Yeah, that might, yeah.
That's all that matters.
Yeah,
they bought the
that's
ticket.
True.
And I just also, I make music for myself at the end of the day. I make it hopefully in the hopes that other people like it and enjoy it. But I just make the music I want to enjoy and I like. Somebody that's interesting that we both know is Dallas Alexander.
I was gonna say you have the same last name.
Yeah,
right?
That Dallas Alexander, he's the man,
Yeah.
And I remember hearing him on the Sean Ryan podcast. Is how I got to, and then I was like, wait, y'all are friends. And then I connected, and I got drinks with him and hung out, and he's just the nicest dude. But
we should all hang out next week when he comes back.
Is he gonna be back in town?
Yeah, I was just talking
love
to him
that
today.
guy. He's genuinely like the sweetest dude.
He is,
He's such a good guy. He's such a good guy.
He doesn't have to be if he doesn't want to be, but he is.
Yeah.
And that's what's cool about him. I like him a lot. He's a good guy. Good family man too.
Yeah.
Yes.
He doesn't deal with it's funny because he laughs so hard at me with all my anxiety stuff because he really doesn't deal with that. I think because he went through so much.
Yeah.
Obviously, so now anything he's like, whatever, you know? But yeah, he also doesn't really, he'll post things. He doesn't care. If you like it, you like it.
But I think it shows through when you don't care. When you just do what you want to do. I think true fans and music fans go, oh, that's the stuff I enjoy. Because I think I've done so much of the curated stuff, whether it's the skits that I post that are like fake and not real.
I still love them though.
I don't know. I mean, most of them are real, but if they're not, it's a joke. It's a good time.
Yeah.
I do it because it's like it's also a way for me to express. I love acting. I've always loved it. Never acted, but I always loved it. I'm a big movie fanatic because there's a way for me to escape reality and to like get into like a little land of just watching movies. But I think the people who stick around and engage with you, like that's really what matters, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Another thing I've kind of thought about recently, I have a really hard time with eye contact. I don't like it. I hate it, and I can't figure out why. I've talked to therapists about it, and they don't really have the answers. They're just there to listen, But I'll sit there and try to have a conversation with somebody. They're like, "You're not looking at me." I'm like, "I can't hold eye contact. It just makes me uncomfortable. I don't know what it is."
I couldn't relate to that more actually.
Yeah.
Yes. I went to acting school for 2 years. When I first went to school, my acting teacher was looking at me, and the whole time I was talking to him, I kept like looking down, whatever. And then he called me out in front of the entire class. He was like, "Well, what's up?" But I think because a lot of right brain people struggle with that, and then I had to take these like classes in acting school where I had to stare people directly in the eye for like a long period of time, and I would start
more uncomfortable
it brought up all these crazy emotions for people. People would start hysterically crying. People would run out of the room. It's so weird. But yeah, anytime I have like a meeting, I think I called you about this recently. I was meeting with somebody and he was talking to me, and once I started thinking about it, I was like, okay, I'll stare at this person's eyes while they're talking to me for like the next 3 seconds. And then I'll look away. And then I'll look up. And like, I couldn't even like listen to what they were saying to me because I was thinking so much about, I was like, how long do I have to look you in the eyeballs?
Yeah.
For?
Yeah.
Is it so uncomfortable?
And then they're like, does that sound good? And you're like, yeah.
As long as you stop looking at me, it sounds
I don't know
great.
what you just said to me, but
I mean, I'll tell you why actually. So first of all, there's 2 reasons. There's a left brain and right brain reason why people have poor eye contact. Obviously, classically, we hear people that are autistic, they don't have eye contact.
Yeah.
And that's because they're not reading any facial expression. They're not seeing it. Literally, it's just the part of their brain that reads that on the right side of the brain is underdeveloped. But they may be advanced at reading, right? Like many of those people can read before they're 2. I had one kid recently that was reading at 7 months of age.
Wow.
Yes. So
that's insane.
Now you look at the opposite and you have somebody like you or you who is more this right brain dominant person who, you get too much emotion. You're reading too much. You're being overwhelmed. There's very good paper that was written a few years ago on kids that were dyslexic, and they looked at this very thing, like what happens when they look at facial expressions. in movies or pictures. And there was this overactivation of this thing called the salience network on the right side of the brain, which is related to an area called the insula, which is related to feeling emotions. And, you know, a lot of the right brain emotions like anxiety or rejection and so in the kids that were dyslexic versus kids that were not, there was this huge difference in their brain, but it all happened subconsciously. They didn't realize that it was happening. They weren't doing it on purpose.
Yeah.
It was just that their right brain was so attuned to nonverbal cues that it was overwhelming amount of information.
Yeah.
And then you go back to where you talk about how also you're reading, the only way you could learn was by listening.
Yeah.
So what's happening when you're trying to override that, you shut down your hearing. So now you're not hearing what they're saying. And now you're trying to keep eye contact, but that's overwhelming. And it's basically everything about you is telling you, look away, don't look. But you're trying to override that. And you're shutting down your actual ability, which is really to hear everything they're saying in both the nonverbal and verbal. I think we had talked about it. That's where the whole idea of celebrities wearing sunglasses come from.
Yeah.
Like, I think Bob Dylan was the first person to kind of do that, where he'd wear them indoors or whatever.
And you got Eric Church and whatnot. You
yeah,
know,
and people
Slash
just
and all these guys.
Yeah, and people just thought and then I think a lot of artists just do it to be cool because they're imitating people. But I think the people that originally did it was because it was too much. And I got that from you at one performance. I came, and it was evening, and I think it was at John Scott's, and you were performing, and it was near nighttime, and she had sunglasses on. And I remember saying, I've never seen her do that before.
I was like,
just trying something out, you know.
And at a break, I went up to her and she goes, "Oh, I'm so anxious. Like, I'm so overwhelmed by everybody. I can't look anybody in the eye. That's why I'm wearing my sunglasses." And I was like, "Oh, so that's a way of filtering it and dampening that." So that's the reason why you can't do that.
Where are you from?
New York.
Okay. I was going to say, first off, that's cool. Second, where did you study at? Because this is...
I've studied all over the world, really, honestly, but I have multiple degrees. I mean, I started out the world in chiropractic because I was an athlete, but then I immediately was drawn to neurology and neuroscience and rehabilitation, and I wanted to do kind of like this sports medicine type of approach to the brain from the very beginning. And then I got an actual subspecialty board certification in neurology and then rehab and then got a degree in neuropsychology and then got a PhD in developmental cognitive neuroscience.
Okay.
And I'm just a girl.
Yeah, I'm just sitting here. I'm like, wow.
It's been a lifelong journey for me to understand. And a lot of it was initiated not only by my passion, but also because all of my kids had different issues.
Yeah, I was just like, what's up? I'm dyslexic with OCD and I have deep anxiety. Can you figure me out?
And
but
how many
like
kids?
you, she
siblings?
sang with
three of us.
Three.
But like you, she sang from the moment she came out, and she started writing songs at, a very young age that were very sophisticated. So, and this is what I tell people, and this is what I tell parents, that your child is gifted. The disability comes because it starts with the gift that you gave them. What they gave you was this incredible right brain, powerful skill that gave you your musical gift and your imagination and your empathy and your ability to feel other people's emotions. But that can also feel like a curse.
Yeah.
And it also can create a deficit on the other side, which is dyslexia, dyscalculia, depression, overwhelming sadness or feelings of hopelessness and not being able to get enough joy. All of those things it's all brain, but it's all these things that can be changed.
Racing was the one thing I got into because I always wanted to race. My
Cars?
parents cars in general, yeah. And so my parents couldn't afford it. It's a very expensive sport. I mean,
it is.
To go race anything, you're looking a couple $100,000 up to $1 million, depending on what series you want to run. I've always looked open wheel cars, whether it's IndyCar, Formula One, like old school F1, like early 2000s. I started getting into that. I went to my first F1 race in 2005. And I remember wanting to be like Michael Schumacher. Like that's all I ever wanted to be was a race car driver. But music was the second best thing to that, so I did that. But as I got older, so like last year, I wanted to, and I've met some of my best friends from doing it, but last year I was like, I want to go test the Formula 4 car. I have a following of amassed. I'm going to see if I can get a sponsorship and just use that to my benefit. And I think they thought I was doing it for like publicity to like look fun, like cool, or think it was just a fun thing. And I got in the car and they saw the data and the speeds and the G-forces and the things I was doing. They're like, oh, he's actually serious about this. Like he's trained and studied on the simulator and whatnot. And it's the one place my brain shuts off. It's actually working, but it's shut off. I'm not thinking about music. I don't care if I have a phone call from a publisher or my label, or I don't care what fire I have to put out. The only fire I'm worried about is the one I'm in, and driving, and so much speed and so much your brain is thinking about the next turn, and I got to hit this apex, and your neck is pushing you this way and you're trying to fight it this way. And it's the one thing I've found and realized, my brain just shuts off and I only care about the task at hand. And golf used to be like that for me until it wasn't, because then we start talking business out on the golf course. And
oh yeah,
racing, you can't do that. There's no talking business while you're racing a car. So yeah, I think that was recently, that's been like a big hobby of mine to get into, is racing.
That's the only time your mind feels like quiet.
The only time, anxiety, depression, you get anxious because you're strapped in super tight.
Right.
Yeah.
And you got to get your heart rate under control real quick. And is in Texas, that's where the test track is. So it gets down to, it gets up to 105 degrees real quick. And in the car, it's 120, or 110. And you're sitting there and you're kind of baking. But as soon as the visor goes down and you're on the track, kind of the heart rate starts to come down just a little bit.
Yeah.
You start to relax and you fall into a rhythm.
Yeah, it's like any sport when you get into that zone. You know, that's when you're in that right brain zone and you're just totally present in that now.
Yeah.
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 And that is, anything. So like golf, any sort of sport or anything, or music. And obviously race cars is like hyper because, there's such danger associated with it too.
Yeah.
Did you?
I love adrenaline.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess like because our minds are racing so fast that when our bodies
if it's dangerous, I
it.
like it. Like if it's gonna potentially harm me or there's something about it, it's just this danger I feel. There's this little bit where I'm like, I have to try it out. I got to see if it's gonna be close to self-sabotage in some way, shape, or form. I got to touch it just a little bit, and that can be to your benefit to a degree, but sometimes it catches up with you. Absolutely. Racing, it is what it is. There's a risk involved. But
did you you don't do Adderall anymore, or do you still do it?
No, I don't do anything.
Were you taking it because you needed all the energy, or was it something that kind of calmed your mind, or you realized it made it worse?
I think I didn't have to take pre-workout. I think that's where it started. Really, I went to the gym. I took it. I was on a vacation and I took an Adderall. I'd never really taken Adderall before. I took a 20 milligram, went to the gym, and I had the best workout my entire life. I worked out for 2 hours. I sweat profusely. I got super jacked because I was not eating. It suppressed your appetite. So I was getting really lean and working out still. And then I was like, wait, I can actually write a really good song. And then if I have a crash, I just take another one. So I was going up to like 40 milligrams of Adderall a day.
Wow, that's a lot.
And that was, eventually it catches up to you.
Sure.
Then the anxiety attacks started to happen in a few months in.
Right.
Well, then once I figured out, I'll just cut my dose in half, especially after my car wreck and I was touring a lot. It kept me up on the road. It was the one thing to stay awake on the road, stay vigilant, stay active. Because if I didn't take it, my brain was mush. I'd forget lyrics. I'd forget where I was that day up on stage. And then it came to a head where I was like, I had to stop. It was getting unhealthy.
So you just cut it cold turkey one day?
Yeah, which was a terrible idea because that made me even worse. I mean, the anxiety and depression, the hormones were out of whack. And this actually leads into something relatively interesting. I don't know what your thoughts are on this. So I got my testosterone checked and I was like in the 200s, which in my opinion is relatively low, especially for my age. So I got on TRT therapy. Some would say I'm too young to start that, but I got on it and I went to relatively normal levels, and depression and anxiety is kind of suppressed. Hasn't really had much of a problem on that.
Oh, interesting.
I would like to get off of it at some point. I think I would probably be relatively healthy to get off of it at some point, but it has really helped kind of get out of that whole situation that I was in with the Adderall and stuff.
Well,
like that.
What happens is that we talked about that, sympathetic fight or flight versus parasympathetic feeling safety.
Yeah.
And the adrenaline system is that danger system, right? So basically it's your nervous system kicks on when you're in danger, which on one hand, you feel like you're alive, right? So on one hand, you like that being on danger a little bit, which is that adrenaline piece, which feeds into your right brain, which is looking for danger, but doesn't necessarily want it. But what happens is when you do that, it triggers what's called your HPA axis, your hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, and you produce cortisol or corticosterone, which is basically your body's own steroid to try to reduce, because adrenaline has more of an inflammatory effect. So
really,
it triggers anti-inflammatory to try to suppress it.
Okay.
But when you do that, it also alters your blood sugar levels and your cells' response. And so you end up producing, you get these insulin surges to try to, get the blood sugar into your cells. And what can happen is that effect on men, it causes an upregulation of an enzyme called aromatase, which converts testosterone to estrogen.
Gotcha.
So if they actually looked at your hormones, they might find that you're low in testosterone, but you might be higher in estrogen for a male.
Wow.
And so the tricky thing there is that if you take TRT therapy, it can elevate your testosterone, but it might also convert to more estrogen if you're not dealing with the root issue or the core issue, which is usually an imbalance in your nervous system, but also it could be if you're taking something that's triggering that adrenaline system like Adderall or some other sort of adrenergic stimulator. And in women, it does the opposite. So in women, it actually upregulates an enzyme called 1720 lyase, which converts estrogen to testosterone. So anybody who's in this stress response in their body or has chronic inflammation, whether you're male or female, you're developing the wrong hormone. And that actually triggers more of a stress response in your body and in your brain.
Gotcha.
And so that's where women can develop, male characteristics like hair on their face, or men might develop, breasts, or you might start feeling feeling
that's not
emotions that
we're not doing Adderall anymore, so we're fine.
But anyway, this is my job, is to add the science to all of this, right?
It's very interesting because well, I guess general question on Adderall and being hooked on that, I feel like it ruined. I don't know what it is. I can't figure it out. I can't pinpoint what it ruined, but it ruined something in my brain. I don't know why I feel different since I've stopped. I mean, that was years ago. I haven't done it for years. I feel different. I feel something just doesn't feel like I ever came back normally.
Well, the good thing about your brain is nothing's ever ruined. If you don't actually have a brain injury and you have these imbalances, the brain is so dynamic it can be changed. And that's what I do, right? So we change things. But there's also a maintenance to it that takes place that you have to maintain. It's just like your body going to the gym and exercise.
Yep.
You could fix an injury and rehab it back. But if you never exercise again, you know what I mean? That's
just going to stay as is. Yeah.
Right. And the brain is even more dynamic than anything else. So, we could talk more about what to do, but when you're doing any sort of drug that's emphasizing a neurotransmitter one way or the other, or different chemicals, you're favoring one side or certain networks. And you can accentuate imbalances or create new imbalances. And once those imbalances are there, you have to do something to change that.
Gotcha. In
a directed way, not in a generalized way.
Yeah. Huh.
Well, it seems like you're doing a really good job, though,
I'm trying.
Can I ask, because for you guys songwriters, I'm so...
Yes, whatever you want.
Have you been able to take a lot of these emotions, and I know that they're even deeper than you're able to express them now, and could you, a couple of lines in some of your songs or anything that you've used them that you felt like were really powerful and really kind of reiterated what you were going through in a unique way?
Yeah, I think so. I'm trying to think. Maybe it's a bit of every single song, but there's one song in particular I haven't released, but I did post a demo of. It's called "The Dream," and it. I remember I was just, so in 2020 and 21 and then 22, they had great years, and then 23 we went into record label negotiations with a major label, and it was like 8 months of negotiations, which is way longer than it usually takes. And it was a big deal. And it was it was just a lot of, people came on board, business management, lawyers, a manager at the time that was like, we're going to get this. This is going to be huge. And, Roman, you're going to have this. You're going to have a radio single. You're going to be this. You're going to be that. And I got caught up in that whole thing. And I had the long form in my email. I had the record deal in my email. It literally just said sign here. And I was like, well, I'm going to have my lawyer take a look at this on Monday, and then we'll go into the signing process. Got a call on that Friday before, or I guess when I told myself that, from my manager at the time. He said, hey, man, they decided they're going to pull the deal off the table last minute. And we're sorry. Yeah, no explanation. Just is what it is. Your music is a little weird, kind of going for the Zach Bryan thing, the very folky style. And I get it, And Billy Currington is a huge inspiration of mine. So I love like early 2000s country.
Yeah,
that's just kind of my vibe. And that's kind of always been my thing. I refuse to change that. I try to evolve that, if anything. And so they pulled the deal off the table, and I remember I didn't feel sad. I was like, well, I've had enough, trauma in my life. It is what it is, get back to work,
Right.
And I didn't deal with it. I just said, we don't have time to mope and cry about it. Get music out. We've been sitting on music for 8 months after I'm coming off this big song. We sat on our, ass with our hands under it and didn't do anything. And we just waited and waited and waited. We need to release music. And they said, absolutely. So, my label I'm at currently, there was going to be a partnership deal. So they were going to stay on board, and they stuck with me, and they said, we're going to keep going. We're going to keep pushing. They kept putting music out, and I just didn't stop. I kept going. I went back on the road, just kept doing my thing and put another EP out and another single. And, the music's like the stock market. So you're going to have years where you're like this, and you're going to have years where you're like this, and you're going to plateau just a little bit. You get just a bumpy ride, and people only see this. They don't ever see the in-between because they don't really care. They only care about the success. Well, I'm the one who has to deal as the artist. We have to deal with the highs and the lows, but we also have to live in the lows and figure out how to get yourself out of it, because crying about it's not going to do anything. So I put more music out. And then about last year is when it started, like, oh, I need this. I'm burnt out. Like my brain's just not working. I don't know. I'm not inspired to write anything. I'm tired. I'm lethargic. I'm angry. I'm bitter. And all these things, these emotions kind of came in. And, there's a line in the song, and I'll be sure to post it. I need to post it at some point and see what happens,
I'll repost it.
Yeah, but you'll understand it, because it's like, they say we're all family when the money comes around, say it's all business when the money runs out, and it's like when... That's
a great line.
And then as soon as that deal got pulled off the table, lost management, lost business management, lost lawyers, and it's like, word for word, I was told, well, we were really hoping you were going to go to radio. So, wish you the best of luck. Maybe we'll work together in the future. And at that point, I was like, I don't want to work with you guys.
Yeah, you're
the last people I want to work with,
Yeah, that's a line that serves for any business.
Wow, that's really amazing.
Anybody in business has been through that type of thing. That's really cool. Yeah, they say the family, and then they say it's all business. That's a cool line.
Yeah, sorry, we wish you the best, and you'll hope to see you around. And it's just like we were just family. We were just literally, and I know business is business. I'm well aware. I mean, we're all entrepreneurs, but I'm like, nah, I was just at dinner with your family the other night. We were talking about, what the interior of my tour bus is going to look like, and it was a quick reminder that anything can be taken from you as quick as you got it. And,
well, the thing to remember is, what did you say? You're 29?
29 this week. Yeah.
I mean, Jesus, you're just you still have so much.
Yeah.
I mean,
You also are such a resilient person.
You have to be,
built that since you were a kid.
You have to be. Resilience, I guess that's my favorite thing, is just resilience. I've always fallen in love with the underdog. Like, not just like the underdog of like, fights from the ashes, but like Rudy was my favorite movie growing up.
I love the movie Rudy.
Love Rudy. That movie. It's a great movie, whether any of it's true or not. It's still a great movie.
It's somewhat true. I actually have people that were on the football team.
Really?
Yeah.
It's an incredible. Like Joe Montana was. I remember having a Joe Montana jersey, framed, because he played for the Chiefs too. So I had a Chiefs jersey with it, and I just
You must be loving Patrick Mahomes. You must be like...
I like the Chiefs. I'm kind of over the
The Taylor Swift.
No, I'm over the Super Bowls right now because if we keep winning Super Bowls, it's gonna fall down at some point, which we found out this past year. But yeah, the Taylor Swift thing, I love Taylor Swift, but like,
yeah,
the more I hear about it, the more I'm just like, guys, we got to slow this down.
Now, women with football, a lot of it, like my wife has no clue, but they're all like, well, you know, she was with Taylor Swift with this guy and made him famous. No, he was like a Hall of Fame football player, you know, and they're like, nobody knew who he was. We're like, everybody knew who he was before.
He's Travis Kelce. Yeah, I mean,
that's so funny.
I grew up a big sports guy as far as like just Missouri sports. Love the Cardinals, love the Royals. I'm a giant Missouri Tigers fan. So like, but all of those teams were kind of underdogs to a degree. Like Mizzou has always been an underdog as far as football goes. So I've always identified with like the people like we're gonna fight back. And I don't know. I've tried to dissect my brain a million times, a million ways over, and I just can't. Something new always pops up, you know.
Listen, you're an incredibly talented, creative guy. You were born that way. You're really young. Everything happens for a reason. Just keep on going. I mean, I can't wait to hear what music you're going to put out, or just use it as fuel. And
if you were to like give advice to, because this is why we did the podcast. Is like, you know, there's probably so many people that look up to you. Like I admire you. I think you're so talented. And
I admire
amazing.
you too.
Thanks. But I'm just saying, like, it's such a incredible thing for you to come here and talk about all the things that are going on behind the scenes, when like I'm sure people are just like, wow, look at what he's doing, you know. And so now the people that look up to you that are probably struggling with the same things get to be like, okay, I can still, you know, work hard at my dreams and make those happen even if I'm dealing with these types of things. So what kind of advice would you give to like maybe like someone that's similar to like your younger self, or someone trying to do what you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, like,
no pressure.
No, I mean, persistence. You got to be persistent. I mean, it's just, nothing's going to get done by you just knocking on the door and hoping it opens. You got to open it yourself. You got to figure it out. And, you know, sometimes you got to go back and kick the door down. But, I mean, you have to be persistent. It's like waking up each day, just going through the motion, taking it one day at a time. Because what happens to me, and it still happens to me, I take one step forward and I get knocked back 100 steps.
Yeah.
But it's that one step forward you take. You know, like Rocky Balboa, another movie that I love. And it's like, it's not about how many times you get knocked down. It's about how many times you get knocked down and still get back up. And like that's what it's about. Like this career is just about persistence, and it's a game of numbers. You throw as many darts at the board as you possibly can, hoping that one will stick and hit a bullseye. And you throw enough, you're going to hit a bullseye eventually. It's just a game of numbers. You just got to keep doing it every single day. And it might be 10 years from now. I don't really care, but I have no plan B. I've kind of only planned this out. So
listen, in 10 years, you'll still be only 39 and you'll still be a very young man.
Hopefully racing cars full time. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
You know? I just want a Porsche. That's all I care about.
You're getting one.
I hope.
We can get matching ones and we can race each other.
I just want a GT3 RS. That's all I want right now.
Well, there you go. You put it out there in the world for manifestation. So we'll look back on this clip when you have it.
Yep.
All right.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you.
Like, this meant so much to me.
And I've always, you know, to brag on your daughter, like, she's just always been super sweet and super kind. I mean, I saw you at a round. I went the day I got drinks with Dallas. We popped by over in Midtown, and you're playing a round over there, which we all play rounds all over town anyway. So it was cool to get to see you there, and you're friends with some great people. You know, Gable and Spencer and them are great people too.
I know you and I are due for a drink. So.
Yes, I'm around.
Okay,
say when. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much, and make sure to check out his EP August 22nd.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Until next time.
Until next time.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.